So we're live. Welcome everyone. And so yeah, I'm wearing this shirt so that people can notice me. I want to be noticed that I am here. I've arrived physically, not metaphorically. I've arrived. But it's good to see you all. And yeah, I was thinking of well, I've got a topic I want to take up for everyone here today, which I think is going to be very relevant. But I was attempting to think of a joke. And since we just went through St. Patty's Day, when was that? Last week at some point. But I was thinking of an Irish joke. You guys want to hear an Irish joke? Any Irish easily offended Irish people here? I don't think that exists. I don't think Irish people get easily offended. Although these days, who knows? But the joke goes like this: how many Irishmen does it take to screw in a light bulb? And the answer is four. And one to hold the bulb, and three to drink until the room spins. So there you go. There's your Irish. And of course, you're all muted, so I can't hear all the roaring laughter, which I'm sure is occurring.
That's a very good one.
Okay. Adrian, good to see you, my friend. And Adrian, thank you for all you do. For those who are not members, if you're just seeing this on YouTube or something, Adrian Garner is our resident scholar. He knows business, logistics, contracting. I mean, this guy, he knows stuff. Like, do you have Esquire after your name, Adrian? Is that?
I do actually, because if you qualify at the this goes back way back to the old structure of society in the UK. If you qualify at the English bar, in other words, you're an attorney at what they call the bar in England, then you're allowed to call yourself Esquire. So you either have to be a gentleman or to be in a profession, and I think an army officer. And then you were allowed to put ESQ after your name. Believe it or not, I don't think anyone uses it anymore. I think it dropped off with all the other things that dropped off in society decades back. But yeah, people were still using it, well, even 20, 30 years ago. Yeah.
Right. Well, there you go. Adrian Garner, Esquire.
Hey, I can use that on YouTube, John. Who the hell, what the hell is this? Some medieval.
Yeah. People don't even know what does that even mean? So,
well, it's John. It's a. If you were an esquire, you were one down from a knight. That was the backup to a knight. So you were either a full knight or you were an esquire.
Oh, right. So, Sir Adrian would be the knight.
The knight, exactly. Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. This goes way back in the roots of the history of certainly the UK. Yeah.
Wow. Well, there you go, everybody. There you go. And of course, here I am in the United States, where we rejected all notions of such things.
Well, you would definitely have been Sir John. There's no doubt about that.
You think?
Absolutely.
Well, I can start calling myself that right now. I mean, you can call yourself whatever you want these days.
I think it's a great YouTube handle, actually, John. Yeah. You might get a lot of audience.
I identify as Sir John. So you know what's funny too about that? Hold on, let me grab something. Here we go. All right. So here's integrity is everything. Okay. And you see what it says right across the top? The instant bestseller. Okay. Now, I had the book cover designed before I ever sold a copy of it, obviously. And so how did that show up there? That showed up there because I postulated that as soon as somebody buys one copy of this book, it is instantly my best-selling book. So let's just put the instant bestseller across the top there, and now we make it so. And it, sure enough, it came to be.
I love it, John. Right. I mean, I'm sure that would have got through the trade descriptions law in the UK without any problem. But yeah. I love it.
Well, no, I mean, so many people are so friggin' desperate to have, New York Times bestseller. Like, who gives an F what the New York Times thinks? I mean, talk about a trash newspaper. Anyway, so
this is definitely Fun Friday, John. I can tell.
Yeah. I got the shirt. All right. So welcome everyone. I got a topic for you. Hey, we're going to be meeting today. Just housekeeping real quick. We're going to be meeting at 6 p.m. Eastern U.S. time to discuss whatever you want to discuss. We've got Be Heard coming up at 6 p.m. The whole purpose of Be Heard is for me to listen and for you to be heard. So if you got some ideas you want to talk about, one of which I think we just brought up before we went live, show up. That's obviously for our members here. If you're just seeing this on YouTube, you can get a membership at jlsuccessmastermind.com. Go there, do it. Guaranteed you're going to love it. Guaranteed. So here's what's coming up for me today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen in uno momento. Let me find the stuff that I am going to share with you. Here it is. Great. Chapter 3 is opportunity monopolized. This is out of The Science of Getting Rich. Wallace D. Wattles, 1910. Is opportunity monopolized? I'm going to read you the first paragraph. No man is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from him, because other people have monopolized the wealth and have put a fence around it. You may be shut off from engaging in business in certain lines, but there are other channels open to you. Probably it would be hard for you to get control of any of the great railroad systems that field is pretty well monopolized, but the electric railway business is still in its infancy. This is 1910, guys, and offers plenty of scope for enterprise. And it will be but a very few years until traffic and transportation through the air will become a great industry. And in all its branches will give employment to hundreds of thousands and perhaps to millions of people. Why not turn your attention to the development of aerial transportation instead of competing with J.J. Hill and others for a chance in the steam railway world? Other places in this book, he talks about how people will disqualify themselves from getting rich by all these considerations about, it's the big magnates or the monopolies or the governments that have built a moat around riches. I could search for, keywords in here. Let's try government. Here we are. So I was just looking through this earlier. Right now, where is it? Many people will scoff at the idea that there is an exact science to getting rich, holding the impression that the supply of wealth is limited. They will insist that social and governmental institutions must be changed before even any considerable number of people can acquire a competence. It's true that existing governments keep the masses in poverty, but this is because the masses do not think and act in the certain way. So let me introduce another word here then, and that word shall be propaganda. Propaganda, all right? So this is false news and narratives for the purpose of political manipulation. That's what propaganda is. So if we've got our attention fixated to whatever degree on here's what I can't do because these other outside forces are cause and I'm effect, then and therefore why bother reaching? There's no use, right? That's called apathy, by the way. Okay, why bother? Well, then we're not thinking in a certain way, are we? The certain way, capital C, capital W, the way of no doubt, the way of causation, the way of purpose, faith, and a deep sense of gratitude, which he talks about throughout the book. So if we are espousing what propagandists from whatever, could be corporate things, could be governmental, could be, mass media, if we're espousing or going into a state of agreement with those ideas, and that we are effect, and that only these few special elites are cause, well, you lose. But the whole title of the book is The Science of Getting Rich. In other words, when I think of science, all right, I'm picturing in my mind, there's Adrian in the laboratory with test tubes, and here's the Frankenstein guy and the electrodes, right? And so it's science. It's not subjective. It's not, now I'm going to convince that, whatever the article is in the test tube, whatever that item is, to react a certain way. There's no Q&A about it. There's no, negotiations. It's science. Therefore, impersonal, objective, not subjective. And so if we buy that idea, because you're buying something, whether it's, you can't, here's the narrative why you can't or shouldn't, or whatever the story is, or you're buying the idea that I can, and here's the empirical evidence that I can. Look, others have. And certainly there are things in your life where you've excelled when you weren't beclouded by all of the, considerations about it, all the propaganda. Okay. So depending on which deal you buy, more often than not, okay, you're going to either make progress or retard progress. Now, Earl Nightingale said, how did he word this exactly? Our society or economy is fashioned not to prevent the strong from winning, but to prevent the weak from losing. Not to prevent the strong from winning, but to prevent the weak from losing. I'm considering that right now, and what he said and when he said it. We're going back nearly a century, maybe 60, 70 years anyway. And I'm thinking right now, you may perceive that this, again, with this whole theme I'm bringing up, that you're being prevented from winning. But if we look at what Earl Nightingale said, to prevent the strong from lose, or to prevent the weak from losing, there's a basement. Let's say there's a bottom threshold or a bottom standard. We could call this like the poverty line or something, above which people will subsist and receive, handouts and whatever, to prevent the weak from losing. And to that degree, there is, what has been called social security. Okay, so there's that lowest, most threshold. But to prevent the strong from winning, here's the question, guys. Do you identify with the strong or the weak? You see, here's the point of separation, right? Is I'm weak and I'm trying to just not lose too badly, versus I'm strong and I'm going to bust through any imaginary ceilings that there are, because they are imaginary. Which perspective resonates with you more? Struggle to survive or break every record known to man? Retreat, but not too far, or advance and do it boldly? Like which narrative resonates with you? And I would offer you that if the first one, right, I'm the weak or something, if that resonates with you more often, and you got to be honest with yourself on this, then I would say that you bought a lot of propaganda. Somebody sold you a bad deal. Somebody convinced you that you're a effect. And by the way, that somebody is billions of people, and there's evidence all around to suggest that you're a effect. Here we are doing this planet Earth thing. And certainly, I mean, I can look right now, look, the weather, I don't like the weather. What are you going to do about it? I can't do anything. I'm a effect. Because I'm identifying as just me, little John, here, this little speck on this ball of dirt floating around, in the ethers and whatever. And so, yeah, I'm so insignificant. I'm nothing, right? So I guess the punchline to all this is we've got to identify as our bigger self, capital S, self. If we are just in the physicality of it all, as the pendulum swings, this is like Hermetic philosophy now, out of like Kabbalion, but as the pendulum swings and you're on the pendulum, you get to be affected by, the rise and fall and the good times and bad. And certainly, there's good times and bad. Okay. And we've got the ups and downs of emotions and life and all this. Okay. But if we rise above that, if we identify as a bigger, higher self, right, and not just as my body and not just as the mind that I use, mind is an action. Okay. But if I can just cultivate the posture of the witness, the observer of all that, and rise above the pendulum. Yeah, there's the pendulum. I see it. Yeah, that's great. That sucks. That's great. That sucks. Yeah. There it is. Objectively, but not being subjected to it to a degree. Okay. I suppose that, if one was to truly transcend, and we've seen some people do this in history, right? Well, whatever. That's a body. Yeah, I happen to be using it right now, but I don't identify with it, right? So I'm not there. Okay, I'm not there. I mean, I've heard of Buddhist monks, that light the body on fire, and it's like they're not even in the body anymore. Okay, I mean I don't know. I don't know. I'm not even interested in doing that myself, but I suppose some people are. Okay, so where am I going at with all this? If you've had considerations around outside forces that prevent you from getting what you want, we've got to look at that. We've got to observe that for what it is. Take out the rubber stamp bullshit, right? Stamp it. All right. Now we know that's what that is. You could send that memo into the outbox and pause and remember who you are. Because you are so powerful. You are so powerful. In fact, so powerful that somebody else could sell you a narrative to convince you that you're not, and then you get to demonstrate how powerfully ineffective you are. That's how powerful you are. That this amazing being of energy has been subdued into, I'm just a little piece of, meat on this ball of dirt. My goodness. Why did this come up for me today? This came up for me today because, as Lindsay knows, as I revealed yesterday to Lindsay and whoever was on here live, I've been remodeling the garage. I'm almost done. Oh, it's getting close. It's getting good. But while remodeling the garage, I have a headset. Well, I might as well use the headset, right? And I mean, I got this phone here, and there's like video channels that I can tune into and hear about current events and what's going on in Washington, and right. And I'm thinking, and a lot of the narrative is, I mean, it's rough. It's rough. I'm not going to get into all the details on it. You can look for yourself if you dare. But all of it is about what's wrong. And what should be happening, shouldn't be happening, could be, or, there's also the injections of here's what you can do, right? So I tend to listen to more resourceful narrative in that way, but still here's the problem, here's the common enemy, here's the issues, right? And then, yes, here's the people who are, rallying to have an effect in that area, right? So it's not 100% one way. I know some people just sit there and watch TV all day and get all emotionally involved. They don't do anything, but just get all emotionally involved. And yeah, that's like full on victimhood right there, full on. And is that not what Waddles was talking about in, the 100-year-old text that we just read, 112-year-old text that we just read? Right? Yeah, sure. Governments and social structures and keep people down, but that's because they refuse to think in a certain way. So the antidote, regardless of all of the, the influences which could impinge upon you, and in modern times definitely do impinge upon you much more than in 1910, where you had to get the weekly news leaflet or something from the printing press. Okay. But yes, they impinge upon you. What's your responsibility in all that? To remember who you are, to think in a certain way, to think truth, as Waddle said in the same book, to think truth regardless of appearances. I'm going to pull up one more quote. Let me find it for you here. Again, guys, we've covered this whole book at length, but it's worth. I need reminders all the time. I don't know about you, but damn it, I am screwing up my stuff here. Yes. All right, good. Here it is. The word laborious appears once in the book. It says here, every man has the natural and inherent power to think what he wants to think, but it requires far more effort to do so than it does to think the thoughts which are suggested by appearances. To think according to appearances is easy. To think truth, regardless of appearances, is laborious and requires the expenditure of more power than any other work man is called upon to perform. There is no labor from which most people shrink as they do from that of sustained and consecutive thought. It is the hardest work in the world. This is especially true when it is contrary to appearances. Every appearance in the visible world tends to produce a corresponding form in the mind which observes it. And this can only be prevented by holding the thought of truth. What's the truth? Who am I? We can go back down to the most basic of all basics, right? Know thyself. Okay. Big S, big S. And that's why, I'll say, sit there, start your day, a little quiet time. You'll have thoughts as you're sitting there being quiet. Observe the thoughts. Know that the thoughts aren't you, right? Just sit there and observe. And then, from that place of quiet, then make some decisions. Make some decisions. Here's how I'm going to show up today. And here's how I certainly will observe influences, suggestions, appearances. I'll participate in the whole physical life thing. Okay. But let me, to the best of my ability, remember that who I really am is behind all of that, observing all of that. And as much as I could stay above the pendulum, I could watch the pendulum swing, but then, I forget and I get on the pendulum and now I'm the effect. Oh my goodness. Yes. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, oh, who am I again? I guess this is the whole game of life, right? I mean, if you look at it, it's just my thoughts about it, right? I mean, if you really knew 100% who you were, then no game. Here you are, all powerful, omnipotence and stuff. And no game, no limitations, no goals, nothing. So we're going to do something. Okay. So I need to not know. I need to have limitations. There has to be rules and goals and things that I don't have or can't do. Right? Now we can have a game. Otherwise, I guess we just sit around and be. Do that for a few billion years, and then you probably want to have a game, right? Gets old. Just sit there and be. Oh my goodness. Am I making any sense? Allie, am I making any sense? This is what's coming up for me today as I think about how Adrian, we'll bring you out here. Thank you, Adrian, for saving me. But as I'm thinking about what am I basing my actions on? And certainly it's not 100% self-determined. A lot of it is coming in from the outside, right? I just have to be aware of it, right? I can't be blind to that and sit here and just be like, oh, I made a decision. No, you friggin' didn't. Somebody else made it for you. Adrian, what are you thinking right now?
So I'm not on camera, John. I'm off site today, so I'm just logging in remote. No, John, you strike on a very important issue. And this all goes back to your mention of government at the beginning and the theme from the book of somebody else having hived off all the wealth and access to the market. Government is particularly important. This people think, mistakenly in my view, that the local authorities, the regulator, the government, the politicians are going to create the right environment in which to do business. That is precisely what they do not do. They are there to represent people, to come up with a compromise in a smoke-filled room, certainly in the old days at 2 o'clock in the morning. They agree what they can agree to disagree on. So they have to come up with something which is a consensus. And quite often that takes years. It's imperfect. It has strange bells and whistles and complexities, which leaves poor old you and I struggling to understand what they mean, to implement business strategies, to set things up. If we don't learn to ignore those processes, we'll get nowhere. And I've learned that the hard way. And I've seen that in whole economies. I've been lucky enough to live in small economies where you can witness firsthand the direct impact of local politicians on what is going on. And time again, they almost try to frustrate business rather than the other way around. So it's up to us to act, as you say. Do not believe for a minute that somebody has a monopoly on creating the right conditions or allowing you access to a market. It is up to us to carry on and find ways around the politicians, the politics, the legislation, what they have decided they're going to put in place. They do not come out with perfect solutions. We have to do business in spite of politicians. Business does not thrive because of them. It thrives in spite of them, and that's something I really believe. So you're quite right, John. We have to take matters into our own hands and not just give up and say there's nothing I can do. Someone's safeguarding this market. Someone's got their hands on all the wealth. Some legislation is stopping me. There is always a way to do things a different way. And if you're being blocked, there's always another avenue. Look at the real innovators that we've talked about many times, who've always found a way to tweak what they're doing, adjust it, and get on with it. And that's equally the case because legislation, regulations, and the economy doesn't stay static. So what you launch this week may be out of date next week. So you've got to find a way around it, unless you want to waste your money and your time. So we're constantly faced with these things, and we have to empower ourselves to believe in our idea and our goal and our dream and how we're going to get to it, and adapt that rather than expecting somebody else is going to create the perfect ladder that you can climb up, because that ladder doesn't exist. So that's what you made me think of, John. Absolutely.
Thank you, Adrian. You just reminded me of and we're going to go to Ali, but there is a company that I work with who opened up operations in China, in mainland China. And while it's doing business in multiple countries, here's a country which is known for its longstanding communistic approach and dictates and such, and yet they've embraced to some degree free enterprise. And so I happen to know that there are successful individuals operating with free enterprise methods and products and what have you in communist China. So that's pretty extreme. And again, I don't know, maybe you know more than you probably do, Adrian, know more than I do about like, how does free enterprise work in a communist country? I don't know. How do you combine those things? They're like, but somehow it's working and they're making a lot of money.
Well, that's another great lesson, John. Another great lesson for us, because there is a country where you can put all the money and effort in your whole life and your whole career only to have it taken away from you, because it is very much based on grace and favor. For example, if you decided to develop a building or a property or an investment on a piece of land, the land doesn't belong to you ever, and it can be taken away. Your right to use and enjoy that land can be taken away. That's just one example. So here we are without any of those difficulties, where we will, if we're prepared to work, see and keep the results of our efforts. And yet these people, even without that incentive, are prepared to try. Despite the system, they will do it. And if they can be driven to do it with that risk hanging over them, we've got a lot less to worry about, quite frankly. And we can just carry on despite the system. So yeah, John, yeah, absolutely. That's an inspiring example.
Thank you. Ali, what do you think of all this?
Well, great reminder. Thank you, John. And I mean, I think it's who we're listening to, isn't it? It's who we hear and where are we getting our views from? And I think so many times we look at people who are not experts, who are our neighbours or our friends, who aren't experts in what we're doing, and we take on their thoughts and their doubts. And so going back to who are we? It's that tapping into that universal energy, that universal spirit, that it flows through every single one of us, and keeping above the pendulum. I love that image of the pendulum. It's just so right how you could get on top of it, sit on top of it, rather than get thrown either way. So that's brilliant. I love that. It just shows you the people, like you mentioned, in China, everything's possible. Everything's possible. And we can tune in to that higher energy and be able to not listen to the people that are putting barriers in front of us and putting hurdles in front of us. And that's what gets people through all of that, isn't it? That higher thought, the higher power, and being above all the noise.
Thank you. Thank you, Ali. Yeah, you remind me of the word inspired, in spirit, inspired, right? So in spirit, I do the work, I take the actions, I do all that, but I do it from an inspired or as an inspired being. Wow. It changes everything, doesn't it? Just like where he's talking about in this book, right? Efficient actions done with purpose, faith, a deep sense of gratitude. Now your actions are efficient. In other words, you get more done in less time. That's called efficiency. Inspired action. Good times, guys. Wow. Something that Adrian was mentioning, even in this, under that oppressive, governmental system, there are people still striving and succeeding. And it reminds me of something that Doug Weed said. Doug Weed is a guy who, great orator. We did some events with him in a couple of exotic, resort type locations. But he was talking about how, I'll just give you the punchline to the whole thing. He said, is it worse to have your face down in the mud with a boot of oppression on your neck, or to have your face down in the mud with no boot on your neck? Which is rather accusatory, right? Because you think about, here are people who have, to whatever degree, political liberty and free enterprise, and they got their face down in the mud. I can't. Oh, I'm so oppressed, and all this, right? Not to say that the oppressors aren't real, but also not to say that they're not 100% effective, right? So there's got to be on the continuum, and I think this is what Ali is talking about, on the continuum between, cause and effect, right? I mean, that could slide around, but there's no absolutes, right? Even, here are the people in China making money, and they are not absolute effect. They can cause something. The government is not absolute cause. They can be affected. We're seeing a lot of that coming up right now here in the land of the free, right? Because people have had quite enough. So, so think about that. Where on that scale between cause and effect do you find yourself, or do you consider yourself most of the time?
John, that just reminds me of discussions we had with Stuart previously about the butterfly beating its wings in the jungle and causing a storm elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Yes, we can have effects that we don't dream of, really, if we're prepared to keep trying. And the butterfly is the prime example. You can create a small wind that then magnifies through our customers, through the people we have contact with, through our network. And who knows? And we have the freedom to create those networks and to express ourselves. So what chance have we got versus people in countries where they can't do that? Mm-hmm. We have full free expression across a massively empowered network. And if we beat our wings, the effect is potentially unlimited. If we express ourselves and do it, you never know. Yeah.
Now, if we can only get, proper banking and transaction capabilities in the Cayman Islands, then, it'd be like, we're good.
Absolutely. We haven't been sanctioned by then, you mean, John? Right.
Yeah, I know we're asking for a lot here. But yeah. All right. Thank you, Adrian. Hey, any other thoughts on this? I see some of my favorite people in the world are here with us right now, including Linda Landry. Hi, Linda. What's thinking you?
Hey, John. Great session. Raised a lot of good points. A lot of stuff I've been thinking about lately. Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, I don't listen to the mainstream media anymore, but I do listen to the Telegram channels, and even that can be disturbing because of the truth. But it comes down to our perceptions too, and our attitude, right? So I just choose not to let it affect me, and I just keep moving forward, and just like you said, get quiet. Try to get quiet every day, and ask for guidance and see what comes in, and just be positive. I can't go to the negative. I can't go there. So, just what if we woke up every day just knowing that we couldn't fail, knowing that everything we want is already here. We just have to take it.
Yeah.
So just good reminders, and that's it, really.
Well, thank you, Linda. I hold you in very high esteem. And I know this is just the beginning for you. You are like busting out. That's what I'm seeing. So
Yep.
good times.
Can I
Adrian's
dive in on that, John?
Yes, you can, please.
I was going to say, yeah, Linda, you're a person of great ability. Whenever I speak to you, you've got your head screwed on, you've got great ideas, you're very businesslike. So, we can see that of you. You've got to believe that yourself, and then beat those wings and get out there as you're doing and taking action. You're really taking action, which is fantastic to see. And you've got the ability. There's no doubt about that. You've just got to stick at it. That's what I think.
Good stuff. Thank you, Adrian. Anybody else on this? All right. So then I'm going to be back here with y'all at, let's see here, 6 p.m. Eastern US time. And okay, very good. Just seeing in the chat, I might be a little bit out of context. All right, good. So if you guys are all set, did I miss anybody? Just seeing little chats going on here. Okay, very good. So we'll see everyone back here at 6 o'clock. And I plan on launching something new. So, because what the hell? Let's just do it. All right. Love you guys. Make it Allie? No? Good. You're good. Make it a great day. And hopefully I'll see you back